So Bleach has done it again. Today's episode has featured new additions that not only filled a lot of plot holes in the manga, but even added new stuff that we didn't ask for, but we needed. Starting with the visions that Ichigo saw of the Soul King's sacrifice. Now, I didn't really understand this scene, but I think the reason Ichigo is seeing these visions is because of the Irazu Sando training, and he is somehow connected to the Soul King's powers. And I also think that this flashback of the first sin is not going to be the only one, and at the very least we're gonna get another one in the fourth Cour. One thing that is really interesting though, and I might be wrong, but I feel like the first sin is gonna have two narratives, one for Yuha and one for the Soul Reapers. And both of them are going to be correct, but none of them will have the whole truth behind it. And I believe that the flashback we got today was showing us Yuha's side of the narrative about the first sin. The way I interpreted this flashback, when the Soul King opened his eyes, he saw the future, and despite the tragedy both his son and Quincy's will undergo in that future, he still decided to act as a sacrifice and as a keystone to the new world ruled by the Soul Reapers. And as Yuha watches his father sacrifice himself, he suddenly ages rapidly and then regresses rapidly in age and gets born. I'm not really sure what does that mean. I personally think Yuha did not physically witness the first sin as he was not even born yet, especially considering the other flashback we got in the second Cour where Yuha doesn't really know much about the first sin until Ichibi has showed him the visions. That aside, young Yuha then starts crying as he doesn't understand why did his father choose such path in which gonna leave Yuha with no choices but to kill his father in order to achieve peace. This adds a sympathetic side to Yuha, which is an addition that I very much appreciate. However, this side of narrative portrays both the Soul King and the Soul Reapers as pure evil, and I don't think this is the case, especially with the Soul King. The Soul King probably did not forsake his son because he hated him or anything of that sort. But maybe he genuinely wanted to achieve peace that he foresaw in a really distant future, even if the price of that peace was the suffering of his son and all of his kind. And as Ichibi stated, that is how peace is. The Soul King's path might not have been ideal or ethical, but in the grand scheme of things, it might have been his best choice to actually achieve peace. Or maybe he himself was suffering from his powers, so he decided to give it a purpose. There is a lot to theorize about here, and that is why I don't want to jump into conclusions because I might be completely wrong. But whether I'm right or wrong, I'm damn near certain that we're gonna get a continuation for this flashback. But this was not the only important addition in this episode. Even though it was one of the few major ones, I really appreciated the small details and the new character interactions that we got, and also the scene where Ryukin is holding these silver fragments. Anime-only fans do not understand the significance of this 5-second long scene. I said it in my last video and I'm gonna say it again, we might bid farewell to one of the biggest reasons that made the manga ending so bad in the first place. If they set up the Silver Arrow correctly and made it that Hashwolf alters Yuha's vision so he cannot see the arrow hitting him, and with the help of Aizen's complete hypnosis to distract Yuha, I think this is gonna be a good way to kill Yuha, or hopefully they cook something even better. Speaking of cooking, boy oh boy, was that a wonderful fight. However, I just want to get something off my chest before I get to analyzing it. I'm not the type of guy to complain about the animation. I've watched my fair share of old animes that have a slideshow animation and I still enjoyed them, so of course I'm gonna enjoy the 1000-Year Blood War arc of Bleach. However, what is gonna happen, or rather is probably happening right now, is that there are still going to be Bleach fans who will complain about the animation and call it a disappointment, and it's all because the studio has promised us that Bleach is gonna have animation similar to JJK and Demon Slayer. And although they did a great job and there is a significant improvement to the third Cour in comparison to the second Cour, they still didn't deliver on the expectations that they themselves set, in which is going to infuriate these annoying motherfuckers who will not stop bitching about how it is boring to watch the quote-unquote rigid fights and ruin the experience for us who genuinely enjoy the show and are happy to simply watch it. My advice is, do not listen to either of them. The studio is gonna lie for marketing purposes, and these angry fans with mob mentality are really childish and think everything is an animation comparison. Anyways, the expansion on major fights like the Ichigo vs Yuha fight is a positive sign that the even bigger and more important fights are gonna get similar or even better treatment, which is something to look forward to. I also like the way Yuha is using multiple spells and is not heavily relying on his eyes or swordsmanship. Ichigo destroying Zangetsu's Winger, a spell that is stated to be Quincy's ultimate defensive spell, is also a really nice addition that shows how close Ichigo and Yuha are in terms of raw power. So when Ichigo beats Yuha in their final battle, it won't look like as if Ichigo has suddenly gained power for the sake of plot, but he was already relative to, if not even stronger than Yuha without the Almighty. So if they found a way to deactivate Yuha's Almighty, the only logical outcome to this battle will be Ichigo winning. Them revealing the Soul King's name though, I wonder if this is gonna have any relevance to the plot or Kubo just decided to do it because fans wanted to know it. I always theorized that the reason why Kubo never revealed the Soul King's name is because he wanted to keep him the enigma he was, a mysterious entity that was viewed as a mere tool by everybody. But maybe I was wrong and Kubo has something planned for the Soul King. Maybe a flashback with few lines of dialogue to understand the Soul King choices. I really hope we get to see something like that. One scene that I think is setting up something for the future is the scene where Yuha asks Ichigo why is he still protecting the Soul King even though he realized the truth. But then they got interrupted by Yoruichi. I think Ichigo is gonna answer this question near the manga ending after the final battle has ended, because it is something that is heavily in line with both Ichigo's character arc and Bleach's themes in general. And lastly, the most important addition in today's episode, Yuha telling Ichigo that in order to break the Soul King's seal, he needed the power of a full hybrid like Ichigo. First off, I don't really know what seal is Yuha talking about, but this explains why didn't Yuha kill Ichigo just like what he did with Ichibi and Yamamoto, as Yuha needed Ichigo's powers and that is why he restrained him instead of finishing him off. But I now wonder whether Yuha will try and kill Ichigo after Ichigo has accomplished what Yuha wanted. I also wonder when did Yuha foresee all of this happening when he has just opened his eyes. Based on what we already have, my personal theory is, according to Hashwealth, if Yuha has used the Almighty before the 9 years period, his powers could get out of control. There are only two ways for them to know that. Either Yuha used the Almighty back then after he regained his consciousness, saw everything and then willingly closed it again so it doesn't get out of his control, or Hashwealth at that period was able to use the Almighty and tell Yuha about everything, and that is how he knew about Ichigo killing the Soul King, and that if Yuha uses his eyes it is gonna get out of control. And the way Yuha regained the Almighty in the first place is by getting rid of the Soul King's left arm Pernaida from inside of him, and this happened in the last 9 years period before Yuha has fully regained his powers.